The Supreme Court avoided a ruling Monday in one of the biggest cases of the term, whether Obamacare can require religious groups to offer employees free contraception through their insurance plans. The justice's decision not to decide punted the case back to the lower courts, essentially forcing the government and religious groups to find a compromise. The government has said organizations with religious affiliations like universities or hospitals do not need to pay for birth control and can avoid fines if they tell their insurers and the government that they want an exemption. But these groups argue the act of notifying the government of their objections makes them complicit in providing a service that violates their faith. CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford is with us. So Jan, what does this opinion by the Supreme Court suggest?
Well, I mean, this was really a decision not to decide anything. I mean, they've simply unanimously agreed to send it back to the lower courts with this strong suggestion that there should be a compromise, that the government and the religious groups need to get together and work this out in a way that everybody can be happy with. And based on the reaction today, I think we did get one of these really unusual things, a very controversial Obamacare case that the Supreme Court decided unanimously that both sides seem to be relatively happy with.
And what happens at this point?
Well, there's a number of things that could happen now. I mean, the Obama administration could basically come forward and say, look, we're going to change some of the requirements that we put on these religious groups that would like to opt out of offering contraceptive coverage on religious grounds. So, you know, they could kind of take it and front it that way. And the president today, in an interview with BuzzFeed, actually said that he was pleased with the decision. The White House said it was gratified. So I think that suggests that the White House is seeing that some kind of compromise is possible, because their goal, of course, from the beginning in passing this law was getting contraceptive coverage available to all women. And the justices themselves suggested strongly at oral argument. And then again, two of the liberal justices today, writing separately, Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Kagan, emphasized there needs to be this kind of seamless coverage. So I think what you're going to see is an effort by both sides to see if that they can work this out. And I do think that it is possible.
Yeah, so are there indications that there could be grounds there for a possible compromise?
Well, the court certainly thinks so. I mean, that's very clear in its very brief opinion that they've essentially given them a roadmap for a compromise that they believe both sides think will work. And essentially, what it would do is that the religious groups would say, we object to providing this coverage. It's as simple as this. I mean, we object to providing this coverage. And then when they do so, the government steps in and then makes arrangements, manages kind of the health care plans from that point on. So it's not that complicated if it would work. And I think that's what now they're going to have to see, is if this compromise is possible. Of course, if they, you know, everybody stops singing Kumbaya, and then they go back and start butting heads again and fighting this thing out, then at some point it would go back up to the Supreme Court if they can't make a compromise. And at that point, the court would presumably have 9 justices on it. I think this decision also was driven in part by the Supreme Court not wanting to have some kind of 4-4 tie, which seemed pretty evident and inevitable in this case, coming up with this compromise and then trying to get a solution that way, Elaine.
All right, Jan Crawford in Washington for us. Jan, thanks so much.
Sure.